Reid Hoffman once said, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you launch too late. And look, as a startup founder, I heard that quote probably 100 times, and I nod every time I hear it. But then, inadvertently, I go right back to obsessing over the font in an email nobody will read. So just knowing you have a problem obviously doesn't solve it, which made me wonder, what is the actual problem? What is perfectionism really about? I've thought of myself as a perfectionist for the longest time. And honestly, I always said it with a little bit of pride, like, yeah, it's a flaw, but it's one of the noble ones, you know what I mean? But recently, I started questioning that because I think the word perfectionism is kind of misleading. It sounds like it's about high standards, great taste, being this troubled genius who's just crippled by their own abilities. And maybe that's a part of it, but I think, at least for me, there's a deeper hidden aspect to it. Arrogance, a superiority complex. Let me show you what I mean. So last year, we started this YouTube channel, and going in, we knew, everyone knows, that the key to YouTube is volume. You make a lot of videos, you learn, you improve, you build an audience over time. Simple. Not easy, but simple. This was the literal word-for-word formula we got from one of the big YouTube gurus out there. Make one video, then make one video a week, then make one good video a week. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? We heard that advice, we understood it, and we ignored it because we thought, well, that is advice for the average guy. But we're not average, right? We have taste, we have a vision for what this channel should be. We weren't going to make beginner level content. So instead of shipping quickly and learning as we go, we spent a month on the first video, then another month on the second one. Before all that, we built this studio setup. We needed the visuals to be just right. We were making super high production quality video essays basically right out of the gate. So what happened? We thought we're above the basics. We thought the just ship advice was for people without standards. And I'm pretty sure because of that, we ended up worse off than if we had just followed the basic playbook like everyone else. Now don't get me wrong, I think this studio looks awesome, and I'm glad we have it, but using that as an excuse for not also shipping, that's not good. Because guess what? You don't need to have a nice studio to grow a successful YouTube channel. There's lots of people out there doing it without that every day. But you can't do it without posting videos consistently. That's what I mean by arrogance. It's not that perfectionists think their work needs to be perfect for its own sake. It's that we think we're too special to be beginners, too good to put out mediocre work, too important to follow the same advice that works for everyone else. We want to skip that stage entirely. We don't want to look like we don't know what we're doing. And here's what I think actually goes on underneath. Perfectionism, at its core, is about protecting your identity, your self-image. Think about it. If you never ship anything, you can never really be judged. You're always still working on it. Your potential stays intact. You could be great. You just didn't have a chance to show it yet. And weirdly, that feels much better, safer, than actually putting something out there and finding out it's mediocre. Because once you publish something, once you put yourself out there, you're on the record. Now you're the one who made that thing. And if that thing isn't great, then maybe you're not so great either. At least that's how it feels. So perfectionism is kind of like keeping your options open forever. Planning feels productive. Researching feels productive. But none of it requires you to actually commit. You get to stay in this comfortable place where anything is still possible. You want to keep all the doors open, but that also means you don't walk through any of them. And so you just stand there, telling yourself you're being thoughtful forever. Now, if you look for how to actually get over this, then most of the time you'll get advice like aim for 80% instead of 100, or think good enough, or just lower your standards. And I'm not just saying that, I know because I looked for advice on this issue myself. And look, that's all technically correct, but it's not helpful. It's like telling someone with insomnia to just relax. Like, yeah, obviously, that's the whole problem. I can't. You already know you should ship earlier. You already know you're overthinking. Knowing isn't the issue. The issue is that nothing about that advice makes it any easier to not be a perfectionist anyways. So here's what actually worked for me. The first realization is this. You probably already know what you need to do. Like whatever it is you're being perfectionist about, there's a goal and then there are obvious things you can do to get there. If you're trying to get fit, you already know. Get a training program, go to the gym, eat better, sleep enough, manage stress. If it's trying to build a YouTube channel, you know, make videos consistently, improve over time. If you're writing a book, you know you have to write a lot, finish a draft, then edit. The answers to most challenges aren't complicated. They're usually like 5 things you can list from the top of your head. The problem isn't that you don't know what to do. The problem is you get lost in the details. You get stuck optimizing the wrong things. So here's a shift that helped me. Instead of thinking about the end result, I started thinking about reps. Ask yourself, What's the atomic unit of progress for this thing I'm trying to do? What activity can I do where if I just do more of it, I'll get better and make progress? That's a rep. And if it's actually not obvious, if you don't know, go and search for a mentor, someone where you're pretty sure they know what you're talking about on this topic, and look at what they are saying, and then just do that. Don't overthink it. What are the reps? For YouTube, the rep is videos. For writing, it's pages written or maybe writing sessions. For getting in shape, it's workouts and healthy meals. For launching a business, it's shipping things, products, features, offers, whatever. Once you've identified the rep, you set a standard around volume. Not quality, volume. For our channel, it became 1 video a week. That's it. And suddenly the question changed. It wasn't, how do I make a perfect video anymore? It was, what kind of video can I actually make in 1 week? And that constraint did more for my perfectionism than any mindset shift ever could. Because now I don't have the option to spend a month polishing. I have to ship something by Friday. And whatever I can make in that time, that's the video. That's this video. Find the rep, set a volume standard, and commit to it. This also acts as a kind of exposure therapy. The first few times you ship something imperfect, it's painful. But after 10, 20, 30 reps, you start to get desensitized. You don't care anymore. Shipping stops feeling like a big deal. And ironically, that's when your work starts getting better because you're not paralyzed anymore. And you know what's cool? Once you get into the rhythm of shipping consistently, your perfectionism won't just go away. It moves. It will stop blocking you and may even start actually helping you. Because the same part of you that used to obsess over details, it's still there, but now it's obsessing over the right things, about keeping the streak going, about improving each iteration a little bit more than the last one. The perfectionist energy gets redirected. And I think that's the real unlock. Perfectionism isn't something you need to cure. It's something you need to channel. David Foster Wallace was famously obsessive about his writing, but he wrote messy first drafts on purpose. He let himself be bad at the start because he knew perfectionism in that stage would only cause friction. The perfectionism came later, in the editing, the refining. He sequenced it correctly. Creation first, perfection later. And you know, all of this is especially critical when you're just starting out with something, because that's when you're most likely to be in the so-called taste to skill gap, where your taste is ahead of your ability. You know what good looks like, but you can't yet make it. Most perfectionists quit here because the gap is too painful. But the ones who make it, they just stay long enough for volume to close the gap and for perfectionism to actually start becoming an asset, not a liability anymore. Another place where perfectionism can have its place is in decision making. For example, Jeff Bezos has a famous framework for making decisions. He differentiates 2 different types, type 1 versus type 2 decisions. Type 1 decisions are irreversible or only reversible with heavy costs. They're high stakes. When you make these, you need to be pretty sure about it. Because if you change your mind or you learn something new, well, too bad. Those kind of decisions deserve careful thought. This is where slowing down is called for. Be a perfectionist. But type 2 decisions, they're reversible, low stakes. You can change course later. Those should be made more quickly. Now, the problem most perfectionists have is they treat everything like a type 1 decision. Every email, every project, every detail gets the same level of scrutiny. But most things in life are type 2. Most things can be fixed later, and applying perfectionist thinking to reversible decisions is just a waste of time. Once again, perfectionism has its place in time. It's just not everywhere all the time. So the skill isn't to stop being a perfectionist. It's to know when to turn it on. Be obsessive about the things that actually matter and ship fast on everything else. A perfectionist who's learned to ship relentlessly is a dangerous combination. You got the taste, the standards, the attention to detail, and now you also got the reps. That's when you start producing outlier results. So if you're a perfectionist, don't try to kill that part of yourself. Just point it at the right thing. What's your rep? What's the thing where more volume equals more progress? Find that. Set a standard around it. Commit to it publicly if you have to, and let your perfectionism work for you instead of against you. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.